Good evening. I hereby call the school committee for Tuesday, May 17th. It being time, I'd ask everyone to please stand and salute our American flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'm going to establish a quorum at this time. Mrs. Sullivan? Mr. Homer?
Here.
Mrs. Ayers?
Here.
Mrs. Mendez?
Here.
Mr. Rodriguez? Here. Ms. Azak?
Here.
Mr. Sullivan?
Here.
The chair is here as well. We have established a quorum. I do want to just state that the hearing of visitors, Agenda 2, Melinda Campbell has indicated no hearing of visitors have signed in at this time, so we will move on. I also want to just take a moment. I want to thank Superintendent Thomas and everybody here on the committee on the last Brockton High Hello Dolly performance on Sunday. Vinnie McCreen and Carol Thomas. We did the stage designation, naming it after Ms. Thomas and Mr. McCreen. But I just also want to make it clear that we will be doing a more formal ceremony in the fall where friends and families can be invited once the lettering is actually incorporated onto the stage and a plaque is incorporated as well. We'll have a little food in the cafeteria, and I made that, Mike and I made that statement the other night. I just want that to be reflected. I also want to just congratulate, it was a wonderful performance. It was unbelievable. It's awesome. I want to thank all the students, the actors, the designers, the musicians, everybody that was so talented to reflect a wonderful performance. So I just wanted to say congratulations, and you definitely broke a leg, so it was a job well done. I'll go on to agenda item 3, which is the consent agenda. There's only 2 matters before us tonight, A and B. Anybody want to take any of those out of order, or are we taking them collectively? Entertain a motion to take them collectively, then.
Motion to approve items A and B as written.
Motion was made by Mr. Sullivan. It was properly seconded by Mrs. Sullivan, and I'll read into the record. A is the acceptance of the public building naming subcommittee minutes for May 3rd, 2022, and B is the acceptance of the notification of personnel actions, leaves of absences, resignations, and retirements. There was a motion on the floor. It was properly seconded. All in favor, kindly raise your hand. All opposed, raise your hand. It does pass unanimously. Now we'll go on to agenda item 4, which is the report of Superintendent of Schools, Michael Thomas. Mike.
Thank you, Mayor. So we have our student representative, Ellen, who's here. So this is her last meeting before she graduates. So we'll thank you after. We'll have you do your report, and then I'll talk about how wonderful you are.
Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for having me tonight. So I'm just going to talk about 2 things that happened the past week. So first, we had the 36th annual Arbor One Art Show. So the PowerPoint's actually not working. So sorry. Does it work? Okay, so first we had the 36th annual Arbor One Art Show. So it took place on May 3rd, 4th, and 5th at the Fine Arts. We had art pieces that fell into categories like illustration, drawing, printmaking, sculptures, video production, photography, and there were pieces that were created just for fun or like for a bigger purpose, like to raise awareness about mental illnesses. We had people winning 1st, 2nd, and 3rd in the categories, and we also had people with honorable mentions. Next, we have the Hello Dolly musical. So it took place on Friday, May 13th, Saturday, May 14th, and Sunday, May 15th. Each ticket was $12 only, and we had all the singers, dancers, actors, designers who put in hours and hours of hard work, and the performance just went great, and we've only received good feedback from the audience as of right now. Other than that, we have a lot of things planned for the future. So the project that 12 of us, the senior voices, are working on right now will most likely take only 1 day. Initially, we wanted it to be 2 days in the little theater, but we thought it would take too long, so it's going to be just for 1 day for 2 periods for the sophomores and the freshmen. It will be on May 30th or May 31st, and after that, we will be on the same day, we'll be traveling to middle schools and having small conversations with the 8th graders and welcoming them into high school while saying goodbye. Other than that, we had the senior assembly on April 27th at the auditorium, and we found out about all the events that we'll be having. So we've had our prom ticket sales for prom, which will be held at the Gillette Stadium on May 26th from 6 to 11. The tickets are $60 per senior and $70 per guest. Caps and gowns have been distributed on May 12th and 13th, and also this Monday, Tuesday, and tomorrow, May 18th, will be the last day to get them. And with your help this year, we're actually able to get them for free. The yearbooks are being sold now, and they're only $25 each. So today, May 17th, we've also had a senior sports recognition banquet at the Red Calf from 5 to 6, where all the senior athletes were recognized. This Thursday, May 19th, we have the Sunset Field Night from 5 to 8:03 p.m. at the Marciano Stadium, but at this time, we don't even know if we're actually going to have it because it's most likely going to rain. And then next week, May 24th, will be the seniors' last day of classes. May 25th will be the senior words at 9 a.m. And then May 26th will be the senior breakfast and the house awards, where we will also be getting the graduation tickets and doing the graduation rehearsals. And then Saturday, June 4th, we will be having our graduation ceremony, which will begin at 11 a.m. Other than that, I just want to kind of like talk about everything that happened this year. So we had 2 open mic nights, we had chorus and band concerts, we had a jazz concert, we had a senior versus faculty basketball game. We've had the Boxer Voice newspaper, which comes out seasonally, and then we have brand new clubs like the photography club, the dance club, the boxing club, the lasso, and then we had drama club and their shows, the musical. We had two or three senior spirit weeks. And I remember the very first time when I was here, and at the time, I think you all remember how crazy it was at Brockton High. We had so many like unnecessary fire drills. We had many fights, and there was just no school spirit like at all. But I remember even at the time, I was still trying to talk about like the good things that were happening at Brockton High, because if you open the news, it was just bad news everywhere, and it was just bad to see how the good and talented kids were not being talked about. And it's good to acknowledge the bad things that are happening. Like, I'm not saying that everything's perfect. We have like a lot of problems, and it's good to acknowledge them so we can like work on them and fix them. But one thing that I will always kind of like advocate for is to talk about the good kids and the good things that are happening more. It's good to talk about the bad things, but it's better to talk about the good things. So I want to thank all my peers, my teachers, the police officers, staff members, the administration at our school, and the school committee. Thank you all so much for the opportunities and the support. And I don't know if you remember, but during our last meeting, I said that we have a surprise. And so since this is my last day, we kind of like have a replacement whose name's Mags. And I have a picture of him. And you will meet him in September when he's all grown up. So Max is going to be our new therapy dog for Brockton High School. And we haven't met him yet, but we all love him. So that's all I have to say as of right now. I can't answer too many questions, but you will meet him in September when he's all ready to be seen. So that was it for me. Thank you so much. I also have our senior class president who will be sharing a couple of things and saying a couple of things. So I'm going to have him go up there.
Good afternoon. My name is Mamadou Chamo. I'm the senior class president. And I would like to thank all of you for having me here. It's truly been an honor being the class president, but I'm proud to say we've had an extensive progress as a school and as a class. I'd like to give a shout out for the class of 22 for really stepping it up, but we couldn't have done it without any of our teachers, additional staff, and especially our principal. It's been really, as Ellen said, our year started kind of rocky, but I'm glad to say the class of 2022 stepped it up and showed what true boxer pride means. The media tried to garner media attention for all such type of events, but the media failed to focus on the positive aspects of our students' achievements, especially the seniors. We had our GM Club work with our class office and administration to organize Open Mic Night, which was an amazing turnout. Also, it was organized by seniors, who was most like all part of the arts club. We also had a holiday jam in the cafeterias, many of our infusions of many cultures of dancers such as hip-hop, Haitians, or other type of cultures. But one of the most amazing things we've seen is the Senior Voices group, who are working with the principal and the superintendent to improve the climate of our school, to provide support for younger classes straight from students, not just staff, but from students who has experience here, such as us, which is the last class to have experience at Brockton High School before the pandemic. And most importantly, we had a senior versus faculty game, which I'm sure the teachers definitely cheated, but it's a tradition every year. But for real though, the seniors led the way with extraordinary talents in the classroom, the field, and the stage of art. We've seen a lot of kids pick up cameras and learn photography, or go to jam club and learn music. We've seen a lot of participation in sports, especially in spring sports. The seniors have shown extraordinary school spirit and show what's possible, and know that the hardships of the pandemic set them back. And today we have seniors going to colleges across the country, some in state, some trade schools, and some straight to the workforce. On Thursday, we have field night, which, as Ellen said, it might not be happening, but we're having it to celebrate our seniors for our extraordinary work throughout the years, and to know that we deserve it. But we had to let you know we couldn't do it without you, and all our teachers, parents, who support us over the years. And as a show of appreciation, we have a gift from the class of 2022, and which I will pass now to give all thanks to you for your support, for a free prom ticket, a reduced price for prom tickets, a reduced price in your books, and a free cap and gown. We do appreciate all your support throughout the years. Have a good night.
Thank you so much. Can I just make a quick statement? So, Ellen, you are a breath of fresh air, and we love the energy that you bring to our school committee meetings, and you hit it right then and there. You always brought the positive, even during our darkest times. You showed us the positive, and as hard as some of these meetings are and hearing what's going on, you always showed us that there's the positives of what the students are saying and what the students are going through, and how much, they want to make their senior year the best. So I know it's bittersweet. We're all excited as you close one chapter and you open a new chapter in this book. We wish you lots of luck, and you're always going to be part of our committee. You're always more than welcome to come back. So thank you so much for all your always reporting, and I love the PowerPoints. This has got to be the next school committee person, student rep needs to have a PowerPoint. But thank you.
Thank you all so much. I'm really very grateful and thankful. Like I said, thank you for all the opportunities and for all the support. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank
Ellen,
you.
so yeah, Mike, the superintendent, on behalf of the entire school committee body, first of all, we want to thank you. You've been an exceptional leader. You've been a great voice for the entire student population. You really exemplify Brock's pride without question. And I just want to say thank you, because it takes a lot of time and effort to do what you did, but you did it extremely well. So congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, and we look forward to thanking you and all the seniors at the graduation. And again, the Student Voices Group has been, the Senior Voices Group has been incredible. The pride that you showed and how you supported your fellow students and the staff at Brockton High School and administration you really stepped up, and it was just at a time when it really was needed, that we needed to bring the spirit back to our school, and you did that. So thank you all.
I think we all did our best.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So
We have a gift for you. Come on up.
I can take it. So Ellen, you need to let us know, where are you going? What are your plans? Same with our president. We'd like to know where you're going. What are your plans?
So I will be attending Pepperdine University in California. And
Malibu, the shores of Malibu Beach, not a
Malibu.
bad place to go to school.
And I will be double majoring in political science and maybe either communications or business administration.
Awesome. And the next mayor of Brockton.
Yeah. Next president.
I'll be going to UMass Lowell. I'll also be majoring in political science and aeronautical studies. I'm also running track and field there as well.
Congratulations.
Excellent job.
I would like to introduce my friend here, Andrew, who's also
Come on
majoring
up,
in political
Andrew.
science.
Just a quick and brief introduction. My name is Andrew Gomes. I'm a senior at Brockton High, obviously. I'm attending Suffolk University, majoring in political science, and I am currently on the pre-law track.
Awesome.
This is why we do this.
Absolutely.
Yep. Thank you all. This is great.
Oh, thank you.
Ellen, so when you're out in Malibu and it's about 95 and we're shoveling snow, think of us, okay?
I will be thinking of you all.
Next, we have, I wanted to update the committee. As you know, for the last 2 years, we have suspended our attendance policy in light of COVID. But starting this summer with the Edison Academy Summer School Program, which students need for graduation and get their diploma in heading into next school year, it is my recommendation that we need to reinstitute the attendance policy that's in our handbook. We are really struggling with attendance, and unfortunately, some students are taking advantage of the lax attendance policy, which I was obviously with you 100% in agreement doing that over the last 2 years because of COVID, but it's time to make sure that we put some things in place to ensure that our students come to school. Thankfully, the Department of Education over the last 2 years has dropped the accountability that's tied to attendance because they have recognized the issues with COVID and telling people to stay home and if they felt sick. And then we had the quarantining and the close contacts. But now that school education is getting back to normal,
Attendant, relative to his
be
request.
back.
It passes unanimously. Thank you.
There we go. We're back online.
Back, we're live.
All right, so next I want to welcome our DESI partners. Susan Berglund is with us, and she is our #1 liaison from DESI. She's the coastal director from the Office of Statewide Systems of Support. So Susan and I meet every other week, and she spends a lot of time in our district. She's been dedicated to Brockton for a very long time. She's here with some of her colleagues to talk about our current memorandum of understanding or memorandum of agreement, our partnership with DESI, and as you know, that expires on June 30th. So Susan's going to go over the progress that has been made by the district through the strategic planning process and the adoption of our new strategic 5-year plan. And she will present some other things related to our last district review and how we're going to move forward with another MOU. So I think they're with us. Are they with us?
Thank you
Tracy?
so much, Superintendent.
Oh.
It's good to see you all tonight. My colleague Como will introduce herself, and she's going to kick us off. All right. Thank you, Susan. And thank you, Superintendent. Good evening, Mayor Sullivan and members of the school committee. Thank you for having us tonight. My name is Como Basine. I serve as DESI's Chief Schools Officer, and I oversee the work of several offices within the Department of Education, including the statewide system of support. And so in my role, I sit on the Commissioner's Leadership Cabinet. And so my participation tonight, we hope, signals the importance of this partnership that we have with Brockton to the Commissioner and the Department of Education. I'm joined, as you know, by my colleague Susan, and we thank you for inviting us back here to discuss the partnership between the department and the Brockton Public Schools community. The goal of this partnership, as you know, through the Memorandum of Understanding, is to improve outcomes for all students. A central focus of the memorandum, which was signed in 2020, which was the development of a district-wide strategic plan that would help focus and align the work across the district. And as the superintendent mentioned, our team continues to meet bi-weekly with Superintendent Thomas to coordinate support and funding from many offices across the department. As you see in the third bullet on this slide, you see a direct quotation from the Memorandum of Understanding. In our work together, there's been a need to take a hard look at the organizational structure of the district and figure out what roles are needed in order to bring more clarity and consistency. The highlight of the partnership thus far has been the development of a district strategic plan. And you know that this process was a thorough process. It included multiple opportunities for stakeholders across the community to review and analyze data to address the key challenges addressed by the 2020 review. The new plan now outlines objectives that will guide the work of the district over the next 5 years. As always, the focus here is in improving outcomes for all students and promoting equity. And going forward, it will be crucial that planning and decision-making be guided by the strategic plan. And so as we look to the work ahead, right, what will it take to really ensure that our planning and decision-making are guided by this plan? Well, in service of students, there's some key outcomes for the district and the superintendent to own. These are areas where we as DESI, the Department of Education, will be providing support. So the first is identifying an instructional focus for the new school year that is grounded in the work of the strategic plan. The district has already begun work on this initiative. They've attended the district DESI's Instructional Prioritization Institute and will continue to work on setting and aligning school priorities. And in partnership with the department and other partners, the district will begin action planning, setting outcomes to measure progress, and will continue to solicit feedback from stakeholders. At this point, I'll turn to my colleague Susan to discuss the role of the school committee.
Thank you, Komal. So we're here tonight to stress the importance of this work. The full support and focus of this school committee will be critical. Your work needs to be guided by the strategic plan and informed by data. This will require discipline and choices about how you do your work. The quote on this slide is from the Leadership and Governance section of the district review. You can do the next slide, Komal. I'm stuck. So going forward, it'll be important for the school committee to institute routines and develop practices to analyze data through an equity lens. The superintendent will report on plan progress regularly. The department will also be monitoring plan outcomes. The recommendations from this district review describe what this could look like, emphasizing the use of data and evidence related to outcomes. I'll pass it back to you, Komal.
Thank you, Susan. So, as you know, the current partnership agreement, the Memorandum of Understanding, was signed in 2020, and it is set to expire in summer of 22, so this summer. Based on the conversations thus far, the intention is to renew and update the memorandum between the department and the Brockton Public Schools. We'd like to continue to focus on supports, access, and learning environments for all students, to continue with building leadership capacity across the district, and to support the implementation of high-quality instructional materials. Going forward, a real focus of this partnership would be a focus on improved student outcomes. And at the end of the memorandum's term, DESI will have the option to conduct an additional district review. The goal ultimately here is the spirit of partnership to provide support to the district in service of the students of Brockton. Superintendent Thomas, I thank you for welcoming us here tonight, and I'll turn it back to you for further comments and discussion.
So Susan and Kamal, thank you for coming out. Thank you for presenting tonight, and I want to thank you for your partnership. As Susan mentioned, she and I meet every other week. We have a standing meeting at 10 a.m., but that goes well beyond that. Susan has an entire team that works with our district leadership, school leadership, especially in our turnaround schools. And again, they have been a great support. There's new members of Susan's team that are really an asset to the Brockton Public Schools. We rely on them for their input, their experience, and again, what is mentioned over and over again, and has been mentioned, and you'll hear tonight coming up with a presentation about the site reviews through for our 11 turnaround schools, is the importance of how we look at data. Data from teachers looking at data, leadership in the schools looking at data, and all the way up to central administration, and then obviously the school committee, that we really need to follow our 5-year strategic plan and really base our decisions on what the data is telling us. So we have to do a better job as a school system in interpreting data and really getting down to dig deep into data and see how it's going to improve student outcome and really drive instruction. And again, we have a good plan put in place for that, and with the support of our DESI partners, again, it's really moving forward. The strategic planning process was great. We did a lot of good work with root cause analysis, SWOT analysis. We, as they said, involved all our stakeholders and really came out with a very detailed, comprehensive strategic plan that will guide us through the next 5 years. But again, having that, it's the importance of us is how we communicate that plan, how we stick to that plan, put action steps in place, and again, follow the data and continue to review data for all the decisions we're making. So I want to thank DESI for their partnership, and I want to thank our school leaders, our district leadership, as they work closely with the Department of Ed as we continue to move the district forward, close our achievement gaps, and really make sure there's equity for all of our students. So again, if there's any questions, I'm sure Susan and Kamal will be happy to answer them for you, or I can answer any as well. Anything from anybody? I'll call on you.
Okay.
Can I call on behalf of the mayor, I'm calling on.
Multitasking, sorry. My strong suit.
So, two things. One, how do we define equity? What does it mean to have equity across the district? And two, when you say DESI will have the option to conduct a district review, I wonder why is it just an option if that's critical information that would show how much improvement in progress we will have?
So thank you for the question. We define educational equity meaning that every child receives what they need to develop to their full academic and social potential. So when we talk about looking at data with an equity lens, we really think about starting with an analysis of which students, or looking at the student data to understand where we might have opportunity gaps, and where students may not be provided with the services that they need to achieve to their full potential. And so that's really the lens through which we look at data to try to underline, knowing that our students have great capacity and have greatness within them, that we're looking to understand where are the systemic factors where students may not be getting the support that they need to achieve. So that's really the lens that we look at. As with any memorandum, the policy is that there's the option to conduct a district review. No decisions have been made at this point, but we would like to conduct one at the end of the terms, or whatever date is set, through the memorandum, to make sure that we are able to analyze the progress that has been made, and really look at that through the lens of the opportunities that students have been provided with.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank
Mendez.
you.
Yeah, I really appreciate the questions. I think the we've partnered so well with the district, and we've really seen all of the hard work when your community all came out to participate in the strategic planning process. It's really been a strong commitment from the community and from this group and the district team. So we appreciate that.
Any follow-ups, Mrs. Mendez?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Any additional members have any inquiries at this time? Superintendent?
So thank you both for coming. Again, we appreciate it, and we look forward to working together to develop the new MOU. And then, obviously, school committee, I would bring that to you. They'll send us a draft, and we'll work on it as an executive team. I do always work with Kim Gibson, gets to look at it as well, and then, we obviously have you take a look at it, then it's signed between me and Commissioner Riley. But again, the support through the strategic planning process, some of the people that we worked with, you've met him, Chris Mayer, who works with us, the executive team. It was provided to us by the Department of Education, has been a great asset, really works well with the executive team, was a former superintendent in Providence. So there's been a lot of benefits and supports that have come from our MOA with the Department of Ed, and I really look forward to that continuing as we all pull together to make sure we're doing the best we can to do the best we can for our students and to obviously improve outcomes, because, we have to get better, is what we've been saying, and we have to build back better, and we have to come back from COVID better, and we have to do much better for our students. So thank you both. We appreciate it. Susan, Kamal, thank you for coming. We appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you, you too.
For having us. Have a good night.
We'll have Dr. Zakowitz will come up and to go over the TSV process, which is the targeted site visit process. This is done with all our turnaround schools. Just to give you a quick background on this, each school has to have a sustainability improvement plan that they write that are in turnaround. It's like a school improvement plan, and it's got to be based on what's put forward by the Department of Education. And our plans were very extensive over the years, but the department over this year they were allowed to really get them focused. So then they come out, so they do the site visit. They do it over 2 days. They visit classrooms, and Sue will go over that process. And then they meet with the team, the leadership team at the school, and then district leaders are allowed to go, and we sit there. We cannot participate. We're there for support, to see what we can do as a district to help support our turnaround schools. So the work the schools have been doing is very extensive. They have received a lot of support from the Department of Ed through our partnership. And the site visits were excellent, and Sue will get into those, but I've been to every one except for South, because South and Plouffe were on the same day, so I had some of us picked South, some of us went to Plouffe. I was at the Plouffe. We have one more left at the Gilmore in the middle of June, and that will be the last one. But it's a really extensive process, and I've been impressed by how they have conducted it through the department consults. Actually, they contract with Instill in Schoolworks to do these visits, and again, you'll see the process, and it's really a great process. It really gives us a lot of information, and it really helps us move forward. So thank you, Sue.
So this is a perfect follow-up to what you just heard, because this is an example of what the support, where the support has been, and what does it look like. And this is right from the DESI website. When you keep hearing about turnaround, what does that mean? And so it really is about accountability, and just as Kamal said, it's about equity for all kids, and equity is the opportunity to have what they need, and it's about getting all kids to proficiency, isn't it? That's what we really need to do for all our kids. So Since 2009, Massachusetts further defined what they meant, and it's about producing continuous and sustainable improvement. And so the support was when they engage with districts that have schools identified as requiring assistance and intervention. And we have a number of schools that are in that bottom 10% as the accountability system has defined them. So what does this mean when it talks about underperforming schools? And it's the state's most struggling schools based on an analysis of trends. It's not just about one test or one measure, it's trends. In absolute achievement, student growth, academic improvement trends. And so schools designated as underperforming are allowed some flexibilities to accelerate student achievement, given priority to receive DESI targeted assistance. And so, I only came on board this year, and the assistance and support that all of these schools getting is substantial. Because it provides expertise, it provides financial support. It's really trying to help everybody stay focused on making sure our students are successful. So what happens when a school is in this turnaround status? They have to create a sustainable improvement plan. And this is a lot more detailed than what I put on these slides for the purpose of this. We're happy to show you all the details, but essentially it's this. It's a snapshot or a brief profile of the school, but then it gets into the roll up your sleeves and do the work. It's about setting very strategic objectives, and now, I have to say, when the turnaround schools first started this, there was no strategic plan. So frankly, every school was kind of just on their own to do what they thought they needed to do. Now everything will be much more aligned. And it was done with a focus on student achievement. So every school has their own plan, but now with the strategic plan, all the school plans will align to the strategic plan of the district. And so there'll be more coordination for all of the schools. And so the plan is created, implemented, monitored, and reviewed and revised annually. And I would say, when you asked DESI about the district review, I will tell you that there's constant information coming back to us, though, too. We're not waiting for an end of the time district review. We're constantly getting input from DESI and from ourselves, by the way, too. It's really a process that makes you hold the mirror up to yourself. And essentially, to put it really simply, you're looking at, okay, what worked and how do you know? And then what didn't work and how do you know? It's really about, and you heard DESI saying this, it's about following the data. How are district systems supporting the implementation of the plan? What strategic objectives and initiatives will you continue doing, revise, or abandon? And that's a key question, because we need to really look at, if it's working, we need to do it all over the place. If it's not working, why are we still doing it? And I think that's the lens that DESI is really having us look through to make sure that we're always focusing on what's working for all kids. So what is this targeted site visit process? Mike just outlined it a bit. They have a team come. Here are the schools that are part of this process. I did put a note under George, because the targeted site visits are in 10 of the 11 schools, with the same partners, Schoolworks and Instill. George, because of their dual language, says selected a different partner, but the process is very similar. It's for their turnaround process. They have, instead of calling it a targeted site visit, it's a monitored site visit, and it involves the same process of visiting classes, giving feedback, and looking heavily and closely at instruction. And you can see they've completed all of them except Gilmore. So we have already gotten individual reports for the schools, but the district will also get a summary, and that's where Mike and the entire leadership team will really have to take a look at the difference. You look at what practices are specific to a certain school where there might be issues or positives, but also we're hearing some of the same messages across all the schools. So as a district, we have to take a hard look at what we're doing to make sure we're doing the work better. So what is this TSV process? Well, the goal is building district and school capacity to improve the work. As Mike said, the teams are there for a day and a half. The first day, they're there doing evidence collection. So they are working in every school and visiting classes and meeting with focus groups, asking the same set of questions. It's a very systematic process. And then the second day, the school site team then sets priorities based on what they learn, the feedback from the site visit. The data-driven process is really a diagnosis. How are we effectively or not effectively working to educate students? As I said, it's like putting a mirror up to us, and we really have to look in it. It supports school leadership in identifying a few short and long-term actions to move the school forward, and update the sustainable improvement plan. And this year, all of the principals and their leadership teams, because it's really a strong team effort across the district and in each school. Each school has their own leadership team, and they will all try to align they will align everything to the strategic plan. It just makes sense that way, to have everything aligned. And so the site visits it's a collaboration between these two organizations, SchoolWorks and Instill. And so let me show you what they look at when they come. This is from these are their slides, so you can see their process, because I didn't want to change anything. This is what they're doing. They look at the turnaround practices, and they take an instructional inventory, and it is intense. They have a very good system, and it's very consistent. When they're observing classes, they all have a rating system that they use. Then they provide consensus scoring. So, for example, this is really data-driven and really checked. So if there's an outlier class or in a focus group, if there's one voice that says something, they eliminate those. It's trying to get to the trends and the messages that are the most important ones in the school. At the end of the day, they meet with the school's leadership team, give them their feedback and report, and then the next day, the school team really prioritizes what do they need to take action with. And when I say action, that's what it means, very actionable steps to make a difference for the kids. So what are these turnaround practices? And this is based, again, in research. It's not just like DESI or anyone else just said, let's just make some things up. What Massachusetts did years ago was look at schools that had made rapid improvement and were outperforming other schools. And so they looked at what are they doing that's working. And they really studied that intensively. And there are really 4 practices that, while they're calling them turnaround practices for the purpose of this, I would say to you, these are good practices for any school. I mean, this is something we need to do across all our schools. So it's just good instruction and good organization. So what are these practices? Well, the first one is around leadership, shared responsibility, and professional collaboration. And then, as I said, they have categories when they assess this in each school, and each of these is given a rating and the school principal and the leadership team are given the information. Here's where this finding is this finding is this. It's very specific. The second one is so overall you need the leadership and collaboration. Then the second one is intentional practices for improving instruction. That's where the data come in. What's working, what's not. And if it's working, we need to keep doing it and monitoring it. And if it's not, we need to revise it or abandon it. That's the sort of general instruction. And then, Mike mentioned this earlier, drilling down. The next one is providing student-specific instruction and supports to all students. And that gets to what Kamal said about equity for all and making sure all students have what they need. And then finally, and you see this is in blue, and it's in the blue for a reason, the bottom one, none of these can happen without that. That's why it's sort of the foundation. Having it grounded in a safe, orderly, and respectful environment for students in a collegial, collaborative, and professional culture among teachers. And so those practices, as you can see, you're probably looking at them saying as a school committee, well, yeah, we should be doing these everywhere. Absolutely. They're just good practices. Now, I only put this up so you'd see what I meant. I'm not going to go through this, but this is their classroom. They have a classroom visitation tool. They observe at least, usually they've been doing about 14 or 15 classes in all the schools they've been in. They stay at least 20 minutes in a class. They focus most heavily on ELA and math. Not always, though. They hit other subject areas as well. They have a 4-point scale on these 10 indicators. And it includes things like implementation of the Common Core standards, classroom climate, purposeful teaching, in-class assessment. In other words, how is the teacher checking for understanding at the moment, not just waiting till, oh, on Friday we have a test. How is that teacher assessing whether kids have it at that time? It's really around good instruction. And then it looks at trends across the school, and that all informs the findings. So after that result is given to the school's leadership team, the team then writes an action plan. Now, it's a little bit different right now for us because this is the end of the year. The targeted site visit so close to the end of the year. They're really thinking about what's something we can do just to pilot perhaps or try something small. But the real plan will be, what do you start the next year with where everybody's on the same page? I mean, obviously, especially with Gilmore being in June, they're not going to be trying to do something for the end of the year. They'll be thinking ahead to next year, getting everybody moving in the same direction from that beginning. And it's a very, as you can see, it's a very detailed action plan, even to deadlines. It's very heavily detailed, monitored, very clear. There's actually look-fors in each of these. So, for example, what are they looking for under leadership? Well, they're looking for things like, what kind of distributed leadership structures? Like, is there an instructional leadership team, grade level teams, vertical teams? We've been very strong across the board in all the schools on that. Those have been in place. Evidence of leaders and teachers using teaming structures to share and improve classroom instruction. Not so much there in terms of the actual instruction. It varies. Evidence that professional environment is one of mutual respect. We've been very strong on that across the board. When it comes to intentional practices for improving instruction, evidence the school has developed or developing shared expectation for high-quality instruction and standards-based lessons. We're still struggling with that, very honestly. It's especially coming back after COVID. It has been a struggle getting, high rigor, grade level. It's a continuing push forward. Evidence that administrators spend significant time in classrooms. That's happening, observing teachers and providing teachers with constructive teacher-specific feedback. The evaluation piece is in place this year. Evidence that professional conversations, targeted coaching, professional development is effective and linked to instructional expectations. You can see the strong emphasis on instruction. It really is about instruction. Evidence that teachers and teacher teams are using student data to assess and revise lessons. So all helpful kind of things. When it comes to student-specific instruction, supports to all, evidence that the school and leaders use a variety of ongoing assessments to identify students' academic and non-academic needs. We have some work to do in that area. We have evidence that students are provided with targeted interventions and enrichments. Again, an area we need to do some more work with. But that's why this has helped us so much, because it really targets what are we doing well, what do we need to do some more with. Evidence that the school is assessing students' progress to determine the effectiveness of interventions or strategies, and evidence that the school has the autonomy and flexibility to adapt and modify time resources and interventions to directly meet student-specific needs. So, and there have been many more interventions this year that are happening. So, again, it's some things we have shown really great progress in, and other things we need to look harder at what we're doing. And finally, the school culture and climate. And I want to say, Mike and I, we've been at all of them, and this is the one that we have gotten nothing but positives. The school culture and climate has been rated the highest every single time in every single school. So that's really powerful, and and I think it goes back to even when Mike first came on board. Work hard and be nice, and I think people embrace that. Like, we're here for the kids, and I will tell you that I'll share some of the things that they said. But one of the things we heard over and over again in every single school is when they talk to the kids, they always ask the same question: is there an adult you feel that you trust and know cares for you and that you could go to? In every single case, no exceptions, the answer has been a resounding yes. So that is good news, and they're also quick to say. And that is not always the case. They're in districts all over the state, probably all over the country, and they said that is not always the case. So the culture and climate is well established. So let me finish up, follow up, and next steps. So after all the TSVs are completed, we get the final reports. A report is written for every school, and then we get one for the district. We then need to review the data and recommendations, and then, and this will be in tandem with a strategic plan, prioritize the action steps at the district level and at the school site level, because things have been coming clear to us that there are steps we need to make. We need to make give stronger attention to certain things across the district, and then also individually in schools. Here are some common themes we've heard so far. The strength, as I mentioned, supportive and caring environment for students. That has been uniform. Collaborative environment for staff, the same. Strong, positive classroom climate. Much to the surprise of many teachers in the school, the observers were saying the behavioral expectations are clear, and students are, they've seen students doing their work, students happy, students compliant, and students in every school talked about a caring adult they can turn to. That's pretty awesome. They also have commented across the board on this year having clear focus areas that are understood by all. They have been particularly pleased with the attention on reading and writing. So that's been consistent strengths. Now, areas for improvement, and that's really things that the district we can do a better job with. Need to use data more effectively to inform instruction. Mike mentioned this when he was talking about this at the beginning. We have tons of data. The key is, though, how do you use it to change instruction to make it more successful for the kids? It's not just looking at the overall performance on STAR or an MCAS or anything. All right, now how do you drill down and say, yes, but these 6 kids are not succeeding, and so how do we change our instruction so that they're getting what they need? Measuring achievement and monitoring outcomes. Can't wait for MCAS or STAR. It has to be ongoing with what's working and what isn't. And so what does it mean at the district level? What does it mean at each school? That's work that we have ahead. A key question that really we have to ask is, what can the district do better to support these schools in their improvement? And then, important to remember, these turnaround practices are best practices for every one of our schools to follow. So these won't be just limited to the turnaround schools. Any one of our schools could end up in turnaround if progress doesn't keep moving. So we want to make sure that these best practices are everywhere. And they have to align with our strategic plan and can provide some action steps for improvement. So that, I think, gives you a good picture of when DESI first said, here's the kind of support that the things that we do to support Brockton. But it's also, and as should be, it's not just support with no accountability, it is support with accountability. We need to be accountable for our students' performance. It is about their achievement. So when DESI partners with us, yes, they are providing tons of support, but it comes with the expectation that we will implement what we need to do to make sure our students achieve. So I think it's been a really good process, and the teams that we've had in the schools, we've been really impressed with. So I'll take any last questions. I hope that clarifies the kind of things that we've been doing in the partnership with DESI.
Filling in it.
Thank you, Dr. Zach. A couple of questions. The first one is, just curious, why is the George partnered with with AIR versus Instill
They
and
selected
Schoolworks?
it. It really went, I think, back to the dual language approach, and they looked at organizations that could better assess what they were doing.
So
but
is-
the process is very much the same.
Oh, okay, so the monitoring process, I'm assuming the concept is the same, but.
It is. They've done theirs as well, and we already got the report, and they visited classes, they talked with focus groups. It's pretty much the same process.
So we have 10 or 11 schools in turnaround?
11.
Okay, and out of the 11, do we have any one school that's close to coming out of turnaround status, and what is the deciding factor for that?
I asked that very question at the last one. Yes, I think we do. I think we've seen some, we have some struggling still, and we have, I don't know, how specific do you want me to be, Mike?
Sorry.
I know.
Well, it's based on the MCAS. That's what they base it on,
Okay.
MCAS. So
We really don't know
we don't know yet.
The kids are taking it now. We have gotten really good feedback from the principals on the writing and the work that was done. It's been, the feedback has been really positive. But all of the turnaround reports have been strengths and weaknesses, but one in particular was really strong. I mean, there's a strong, it was a strong leadership team, big improvement. The team that was there, one of them had been there from the beginning at a visit, so really saw the change. So it actually made me walk over and say, because this process didn't exist when I was here back in the Jurassic period. So, you didn't have to laugh. Miss Burns, please speak harshly. He laughed. He made fun of me. So, but anyway, it was a new process to me. So because they were getting such a good report, I actually asked. I said, so now that we're hearing this, how do they get out of this? But it really is about accountability measures.
Yeah.
So until that happens fully, and one of the big accountability, it's not the only one, there's attendance, there's,
Right.
How are we using our own assessments, there's all kinds of data they use, but one of the big ones is MCAS. And that, we won't know that yet.
Yeah, because they haven't used it. They didn't use it. They haven't used it the last 2 years towards accountability.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So it's gonna, if any school was to come out or any more schools going in, it's gonna be a couple more years.
Gotcha. And then the last question I have is, I'm going to use your term, and I'm sure this is somewhat blasphemous. I don't mean to ask it this way, but I'm really curious. What are the accountability factors after these visits? So how does that roll up? Like, I know you're saying there's an attendance accountability factor, like that's an accountability factor to the district. But what are the internal accountability factors that we're looking at to ensure that this is streamlined across the district and that it's standardized with?
I see what you're at. Okay, so here's an example of where we can do better as a district. We were just in one the other day, and actually we said we need to do better.
Right.
We need to do better helping because principals and leadership teams are like drinking water from a fire hose, right? Everything's coming at them.
Mm-hmm.
So how can we better help them look at the data? For example, one of the things we just now have is something called, I don't want to get too into the weeds, but it's called Power BI. And what that allows you to do, and I mean, I got obsessed with it. You can go into a school, you can look at performance levels, you can break it down by, and this is based on our STAR assessment. And so instead of, Ethan just reported to you on STAR, right? But he gave you the big picture view. All right, here's how STAR can be used if someone knows really how to drill down and look at it. You can look at what groups of kids are not succeeding. Like, for example, your school overall may be showing gains this way, but then we can extrapolate, okay, how about students with disabilities? And you can say to the principal, or the principal can say to the teachers, like, your 6 students in this class who are students with disabilities have made only this much progress, where the rest of the class made this much, or vice versa, by the way.
Yeah.
We saw examples of one group just really succeeding. So that's when you start changing instruction. We're not there yet. And that's on us. Like, that needs to be the next level of what we do. And it might not just be with STAR. We're talking with...
No, I mean, you have to actually dig deep when you're looking at students and, like, what are they what questions are they struggling with?
Yeah.
Like, we did this years ago at the high school. Our students weren't doing well, in math, so we had to look at, well, what is causing it? And they had a lot of, when we actually read the questions and saw how many of the students got wrong per student, they were having problems with reading graphs.
Any visual, graphs,
graphs,
tables.
charts, and so we targeted instruction around interpreting graphs and line graphs, bar graphs, again, any graph that's tied to, math, and that was what they were, so that's how detailed we have to get across the district, and we have to do a better job from central administration, supporting our school leaders, so the school leaders can support our teachers, because it's hard work.
It is
And
hard
it's very hard work. And you have teachers, obviously, with, a lot to do with new curriculum, and
Yeah.
so, and then, digging deep into the data takes time, and teachers need common planning time for that. They need their prep time for that. So it's a lot of work, but we have to do a better job supporting them with that.
Well, I think one of the, and this is, I don't have any other questions after this, I promise, but I think the most encouraging piece of information, and I honestly think this is the beginning of positive change, and that is the school culture and climate. I think where they study, the environment they're studying in is just as important as what they're learning. For them to feel like they're open to absorbing information, retaining information, that kind of thing. And so I think that is honestly one of the first positive steps in us being able to tackle the rest.
Yeah.
So thank you so much.
The line we used to say all the time at the high school is, they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, right? And that came across, you would have been at every one of them, we
That
were
was
like,
great. That really brought a smile
Yeah.
about, especially during COVID, and
Yeah.
how much work the teachers have been doing, and the adjustment counselors and guidance counselors, and all of the support staff, nurses and administrators, just really being supportive of kids and their families, and that, to have that come across so strongly by outsiders that came into the building to see that, it was amazing to hear.
I think that's huge. I think it honestly, like, we're changing culture, and culture is so difficult to move the needle on.
Yep.
And to be able to do that in a district this large, I think that is honestly one of the most positive first steps to the rest of the change that we want.
Principals should have felt really good when they, I
Right.
mean, you just knew it, you saw them, when they were, like, because you're nervous, like, you've had these people in your building, it's like, oh, get out. And so.
like an audit.
And you're worried, is the fire drill gonna go off? Is
That
it-
did happen.
Yeah.
Yes, it did.
It did happen
It
at
did.
one.
They had to evacuate
They had to
in one of the
evacuate.
buildings. And so you're so nervous. And then you're on pins and needles waiting to get the report. And then they say, we're not going to give it to you yet. We'd like to talk about a few things.
Yeah.
And they want to just run up there and rip it out of their hands. To hear that every single time was so important. And then the things that we were happy about, like, we really pushed hard at the beginning of the year, and we got pushback about standards-based grade level objectives posted. As I said to you all, you can't hit a target that you can't see. And we got a lot of pushback about that. And you know what? We just were relentless. We kept saying, no. And the principals were awesome. They made sure. And that's the first thing they look for. And they commented every single time. We saw, clearly written student-friendly objectives. We were all like, phew. Because, that's the kind of thing that you should have. You're right, culture is harder. Those kind of things, like clearly written objectives, that should be check, check, check. But we're glad to get those checks, too. So.
Any additional questions for Dr. Zakowitz? Thank you, Dr. Zak.
Thank you, Sue. Next, items to refer to subcommittee. First, we have the public hearing, which we're proposing to have next Tuesday, May 24th. This is the public hearing on the FY23 budget.
Is there a time designated for that, Mike? 6 p.m.? 6 p.m.
So isn't the public hearing later at 6:30? Don't we have a finance subcommittee meeting before that?
Public budget at 6 o'clock that was posted in the newspaper, and then special school committee at 6:30, where they'll take the vote.
Okay. So that'd be 6 p.m.
6 p.m.
And then the special school committee meeting, would that be the same night at 6:30?
Entertain a motion relative to accepting what Superintendent just stated relative to 6 p.m. and 6:30 on Tuesday, the 24th, for purposes defined herein. Is there a motion?
Make a motion
Mr. Homer made a motion. Is there a second on that?
Second.
Mrs. Ayers made a motion for both matters. All in favor, kindly raise your hand. All opposed? It passes. And again, just, we will have a public hearing Tuesday, the 24th, relative to the budget. That's at 6 p.m. here in the Romm Little Theater, and then the special school committee meeting, again, same time, same date, Tuesday, May 24th, 6:30 PM here in the Romm Little Theater.
Next is, this is a proposed policy I'm asking to send to the policy manual review, and then to the full policy subcommittee regarding coordination and scheduling of subcommittee meetings. This would be a proposed adopted policy that Peter Mello put together for us. So I would ask that you, if you could please go over that, and we could place that, we can get a subcommittee. Melinda, is it manual or is it policy, committee of the whole? It would be a policy manual subcommittee, and then that committee would obviously take this under consideration and vote to whether to send it to the full school committee. But this is something that's been recommended by Attorney Peter Mello to clear up concerns about scheduling subcommittee meetings and when they have to change, and then obviously who's in charge of doing those for each subcommittee meeting, so it's clear and voted. It's a clear policy from the school committee.
Who chairs that subcommittee? Do we know?
Policy manual?
Policy manual?
That's
It's Judy.
Judy?
Judy.
Okay.
So we could get Melinda to work with
Yes,
Judy on
absolutely.
scheduling that.
Yes, Mrs. Sullivan and Mrs. Campbell, definitely. Great. Thank you.
Yep, so Peter Mello drew that. If you have any questions, Peter is available for any help, any questions around that you have on that, or if there's anything obviously you're interested in adding to that or getting, please have that conversation with Peter. He'll have a running draft. He obviously will he would put people's suggested changes or deletions in red, so the document stays a working document, and then that way we could then get a final working draft to the policy manual committee, and then obviously to the full school committee for adoption.
Thank you, Mr. Superintendent.
Thank you.
We will now go on to agenda number 5, which is unfinished business. And this,
Actually, we have one more item. The special meeting we had earlier on school choice.
Isn't that
No, we're not-
unfinished
we're not-
business? He's
we're not
getting
there
there.
yet.
The mayor's getting there.
Oh, I apologize. I skipped ahead.
no worries. We have 2 matters before us. One is discussion and potential vote of the bid review subcommittee meeting, 5/17/22. Mr. Sullivan?
The bid review subcommittee met tonight at 5:30. And one item was on the bid, and that motion was made by Mr. Rodriguez and seconded. The motion was tabled for further information. There was not enough information at the time. The meeting was adjourned with one tabled item.
Thank you. We'll now go on to the next matter, which is discussion of potential vote of public hearing, fiscal year 2023 school choice meeting, which was 5/17/2022. Vice Chair, please.
So the school committee met earlier this evening regarding public hearing on school choice. We didn't have any hearing of any visitors, and so the public meeting gave an opportunity for any interested parties to make any comments with regard to public schools policy, Brockton Public Schools policy on school choice. We discussed it, and we recommended to move it to the school committee to vote on it this evening. So we need 2 motions this evening. One motion would be to approve for 2022-2023. And then the second motion, we will need to, a motion to continue with the School Choice Resolution Act in Brockton Public Schools for 2022-2023 school program.
Thank you very much, Vice Chairman. Entertain a motion relative to the first matter as defined by the Vice Chairman.
Can make a motion to approve the Vice Chair's report.
Motion is made by Mr. Homer. Is there a second?
Second?
Mr. Sullivan made a second. All in favor of that, please raise your hand. All opposed, raise your hand. Passes unanimously. Second matter now comes before us. For motion?
I can't make the motion.
I know that.
Yeah.
I'd make the motion to accept the school choice this year as the same as we did last year.
Thank you, Ms. Sullivan. There's a motion.
Second.
Is there a second made by Mrs. Ayers? All in favor, kindly raise your hand. Opposed? Passes unanimous. Thank you. Number 6 is newer business. Any new business before us this evening? Mr. Sullivan, please.
One item on the new business is, we need, for the facilities subcommittee, we need a meeting to look at the new high school and the Promise School. How, is that scheduled through Melinda now?
Yeah, we can go through Melinda, yeah.
Okay. Do I put that in a form of motion, or?
No, I don't,
Just
no.
say-
No, you don't need to at this time. Just coordinate with Mrs. Campbell.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other new business from any school committee members? Seeing none, we're going to move on. At this time, we do have to go into executive session. First of all, let me take a motion to go into executive session. Is there a motion to go into executive session?
Motion to go into executive session.
Motion made by Mrs. Ayers, properly seconded by Mr. Sullivan. All in favor to go into executive session? All opposed? Purpose, that passes unanimous. Purpose of executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A2, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel. Deputy Superintendent, and I do want to make it clear, we will not, underline not, return to open session this evening. So at this time, we will go into executive session, as we always, the room down the hall. Have a good evening. Drive careful, everybody. Thank you.